Good morning. Welcome to the online worship service of Kitsap Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. I invite you to follow along in the order of service. All the links for this service, including the order of service, are on our website and in this morning's worship service email. Whoever you are and wherever you come from, for this hour, we here are one gathered congregation, and all are welcome. My name is Marcia Kristen. I've been attending KUUF since 2005 with my family. I've been on the Children's Religious Exploration Committee over the years. I've taught in children's RE programs and adult RE programs, and I've also supported restorative processes at KUUF. Our worship leader this morning is Reverend Jessica Starrockers, our own settled minister. And I'd like to welcome any visitors. Please introduce yourselves after the service at our Zoom coffee hour. We welcome everyone to attend our Zoom coffee hour after this service, and the link is also in the email that went out this morning and will show on your screen following this worship service. You will need to use the password coffee with a capital C to be admitted to the coffee hour. At 11:45, our KUUF adult education team is hosting a class on the first political order and the terrible impact that the subjugation of women has on an entire country or people. The link was in today's email and will also show on the screen following the worship service. You'll need the password ARE to be admitted to the class. The announcements are available on our website also, www.kuuf.org, or our weekly email newsletter, The Candle. And now the land acknowledgement will be done by Nathaniel Stewart Haskell.
Hi, I'm Nathaniel, and we would like to start today by acknowledging that the land we live on is the Aboriginal territory of the Squamish. They lived in harmony with the land and waterways along Washington Central Salish Sea for thousands of years. The Squamish people still live here and protect the lands and waters of their ancestors for future generations, as promised by the Point Elliott Treaty of 1855.
Now please enjoy our call to worship. Now let us sing. Number 368 in the Gray Hymnal, performed by Brian Kenny, Alina Hemingway, and Ed Luby. The call to worship will be followed by Ashlyn Ingalls doing the children's chalice lighting.
Sing to I offer you peace. I offer you friendship. I offer you love. I see your beauty. I hear your needs. I feel your feelings. I offer you peace. I offer you friendship. I offer you peace. I offer you friendship. I offer you love. I see your beauty. I hear your needs. I feel your feelings. My wisdom comes from within. I honor the source in you and let us work together.
Please join in singing our opening hymn, Breaths, number 1001 in our teal hymnal. This song is adapted from the poem by Senegalese poet Barago Diop. The music was composed by Yasahe M. Barnwell. The lyrics will appear on your screen.
Listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Those who have died have never, never left. The dead are not under the earth. They are in the rustling trees. They are in the groaning woods. They are in the crying grass. They are in the moaning rocks. The dead are not under the earth. So listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Those who have died have never, never left. The dead have a pact with the living. They are in the woman's breast. They are in the wailing child. They are with us in our homes. They are with us in this crowd. The dead have a pact with the living. So listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters.
Please join me in the spoken affirmation. The words will appear on your screen. We gather as a caring community, seeking life's deeper meanings. We value diversity and affirm the worth of all living things. We strive to speak truth in love to act for justice, to grow in spirit, and to care for the earth. We celebrate with open hearts and minds the creative power that sustains and transforms us. Now it is time for a morning offering. You may donate electronically or by check. If you'd like to donate electronically, please use the PayPal link in this morning's email or on our website. You may then email admin@kuuf.org to let us know if your donation is for 1, the KUUF General Fund, 2, the Minister's Discretionary Fund to help our members in need, or 3, our monthly charitable giving recipient for October, which is Kitsap Immigrant Assistance Center. Funds that are not given a designation will go to our general fund. If you would like to donate by check, please send a check to the address on the screen. In the memo line, designate to which of the following funds your offering should go. And if this is your first time to KUUF, you are our guest. There is no need to contribute. Let there be an offering to strengthen and sustain our community, which is sacred to so many of us. We'll enjoy our pianist's gift of music and then the children's story.
And now it is time for our children's story. And you can see I've got my witch's hat. I don't know if you can see, I have my outfit on, my skeleton outfit. And I'm in the sanctuary doing the children's story. It's really wonderful to be here, but I really miss all of you. And Liam was supposed to be here with me today, my son Liam, and he's not feeling well. So I send my love out to Liam. I hope you feel better. Our story today is Who Loves the Dark by Sherry Philibom. There once was a child who got lost in the woods. As night began to descend, the child became more and more frightened. I'm sure any of us would be frightened in that situation too. But what made the child even more frightened was that he had always been afraid of the dark. He was more afraid of the dark than any of his friends or any of his siblings. He didn't know why he was more afraid of the dark than his friends or his siblings. He only knew that when the sun went down, he was always very glad to be inside his brightly lit house. When the sun was all the way down, and the only light was just a tiny bit of light from the moon and the stars, the child got so frightened that all he could do was sit and cry. So he did. Soon he heard a voice say, "What's all that racket?" He looked down and saw a mole squinting up at him. And if you know this is not necessarily a mole, it's a Pokemon, but he's a mole for our service today. "I'm lost in the woods," said the child, "and it's dark and I'm afraid." "Well," said the mole, "perhaps you could take your noisy crying a little farther down the path, because I would like to be in the quiet and the comfortable safety of my dark hole. Thank you very much." Well, another voice said, "Go back into your hole, Mr. Mole. I'll take care of this." The child looked up in the direction that this newer voice seemed to be coming from, and in the darkness he could see two glowing eyes staring at him. Before he could scream, which was his first impulse, there was a flutter of wings, and a creature flew down near him, and he could see that it was an owl, who said, "Please, excuse Mr. Mole. He hates to come out of his nice dark hole for anything." And I'm going to put Lady Owl here for us to chat with. At this, the child burst out crying even harder than before, because, as frightened as he was of the dark, having non-human animals speak to him was beyond his experience, and it was very frightening. "No need for that crying," said the owl. "If you just give me your address, I can guide you home." With that, the child did indeed stop crying, partly out of relief that someone might be able to lead him home, and partly out of curiosity as to how an owl could locate his house with or without his address. But deciding he had little to lose, the child choked back his tears and replied that he would be very grateful to be guided home, and gave the owl his address. And for all of you watching at home, I hope you have your address memorized in case an owl ever needs to help guide you home. So this strange pair headed off through the dark forest in what the child hoped was truly the direction of his home. When his fear left him just a little bit, the child looked around, and though the moonlight was dim, he began to notice his surroundings a little bit. At one point, he noticed a kind of flower he had never seen before, and slowed his pace just so he could gaze at it. "That," said the owl, "was an evening primrose. Did you know that there are some flowers that only bloom at night? There are moonflowers and night gladiolas, flowers you would never see if you didn't go out at night." After a while, the owl said, as if musing aloud to herself, "And of course, there are animals, too, who love night and darkness. Me, for example. I love the dark. In the daytime, the light hurts my eyes, so that's when I like to go into my tree and sleep." To this, the boy replied, "Well, I like the daytime. I can see to kick a ball. I like the hot sun at the beach. When the dark isn't scary, it's boring." "Boring, you say," replied the owl, and she clearly had some opinions to express on the point. But just then there was a fluttering and squeaking around their heads. It took the child just a few seconds to figure out what it was, and he shrieked, "A bat!" and started flailing his arms to knock the creature away, shrieking the whole time. This is a Minecraft character, but it's a bat for us today. And the bat backed away, hovering just out of reach, and said, "Excuse me, but that is my way of saying hello. Well, hello to you too, Mr. Bat, said the owl. This child was out here lost in the forest, and I'm helping him find his way home. You're not hurt, are you? Well, said the bat, I'll probably have a bruise on my backside, but I think I'll live. But you're a bat, said the child, a creature of darkness. Weren't you trying to drink our blood? No, said the bat, but I've been eating a lot of yummy insects. Who would have been biting you if I hadn't been around? Anyway, I couldn't help overhearing what you said about the darkness being boring. If you want to come just a little bit out of your way, I can show you something really exciting. My parents always told me never to go anywhere with strangers, said the child. Owl will vouch for me, said the bat. We have known one another a long time. Owl agreed that Mr. Bat was an upstanding citizen. So the group went off the path and traveled through the deepest forest for what seemed like several minutes, and they came out onto a dark beach. Here we are, said the bat. The child gazed out at the beach, lit very gently by moonlight, and thought, this is certainly beautiful, even in the dark, but I wouldn't call it exciting. Just then, there was movement in the sand, just a little bubble of sand rising up. It looked almost as if the beach were starting to boil as another bubble rose and another bubble rose. And out of the bubbles popped little round shapes. Looks like we got here just in the right time, said the bat. As they watched, more and more shadowy shapes came up out of the sand, and soon the child realized what he was seeing. Lots of baby turtles, hundreds climbing out of the sand. Once each turtle shape pulled itself up out of the sand, it started crawling as fast as it could towards the water. When the baby sea turtles hatch, said the owl, they need to find their way to water, and they almost always do this at nighttime. Because to find the water, they need darkness everywhere else to follow the moon and starlight reflecting off the water. Daytime sunlight is too bright and scattered everywhere. Oh, said the child, this is exciting. As they turned to leave and head back toward the child's home, Owl spoke again as if thinking aloud to herself. You know who else loves the darkness? Besides all the nighttime plants and animals, the moon and the stars love the darkness. That's when they can really shine. Oh, they're there in the daytime as well, hidden behind a wall of light. But when the wall goes down with the sun, the stars and the moon reveal their beauty. After what seemed like a very short time, the child and Owl left the forest and walked down a street that the child recognized as his own. He was very happy and relieved, but also a little sad to be saying goodbye to the owl, to whom he gave a gentle hug and a thank you, and went to his home, and being extremely tired, he went to bed right away. Before he went to bed, as a matter of habit, he bent down to turn on the nightlight that he always kept glowing through the night to keep the dark at bay. But before his fingers touched the nightlight switch, he smiled and pulled his hand away. He got into his bed, pulled up his covers, and let the comforting arms of the darkness lull him to sleep. Well, I hope you enjoyed our story about how wonderful the dark can be, and I hope you have a wonderful, happy Halloween. We are going to sing our song now, This Little Light of Mine.
So, shall we sing?
Yes.
With the ukulele? I hope you can hear this. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, okay? Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All around the world, all around the world, I'm gonna let it shine. All around the world, I'm gonna let it shine. All around the world, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Ooh, lost it there at the end of that one. Let's try this. This little light of mine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Hooray. Thank you for singing.
Now it is time for our joys and our sorrows. Though we are physically distanced from one another, our hearts and our spirits remain connected. When shared together, our joys are amplified and our sorrows lessened. We have one joy today. It was Sterling Fisher's 96th birthday on Wednesday. Happy birthday, Sterling. Sterling is staying at Northwoods Lodge in Silverdale right now as he recovers from an illness. His family asks that we all keep Sterling in our thoughts. And let us light one more candle for those joys and sorrows that remain unspoken in our hearts. And now, please join me for a moment of prayer and intention. Spirit of life and love, we are so grateful to be in community this morning. For all of the griefs that we hold together in our hearts, for the joys of Halloween, of Samhain, of birthdays, of beautiful sunny fall days. For all of this, and for those joys and sorrows that we hold in the silence of our hearts, we lean into the love and care of this beloved community, and we are held. May the Spirit of life and love bring peace to us all. Amen, and blessed be. Please join us in singing hymn number 123, Spirit of Life. The words will appear on your screen. And now for our reading this morning, which is Blessed Are You Who Bear the Light by Jan Richardson. And she begins with a line from the scripture John 1:7. He came as a witness to testify to the light. Blessed are you who bear the light in unbearable times, who testify to its endurance amid the unendurable, who bear witness to its persistence when everything seems in shadow and grief. Blessed are you in whom the light lives, in whom the brightness blazes, your heart a chapel, an altar wherein the deepest night can be seen the fire that shines forth in you, in unaccountable faith, in stubborn hope, in love that illuminates every broken thing it finds. And now for a moment of silent reflection. Well, Brian's music always brings a smile to my face, but especially today. Thank you, Brian. In honor of Halloween today, I want to tell you the story of the Great Pumpkin. No doubt you have seen the Charlie Brown movie. It's The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. But in case you haven't, here is a brief synopsis. And forgive me if I'm ruining it for you, but the movie is nearly 60 years old. So the statute of limitations on spoilers has expired officially. The story centers on the Peanut comic strip character Linus Van Pelt. Throughout the comic, Linus is the best friend of the downtrodden protagonist, Charlie Brown. He is Charlie's loyal and thoughtful companion, offering theology and philosophy to help long-suffering Charlie make sense of his life, which is cursed with a never-ending string of bad luck. When it comes to Halloween, though, Linus is less philosopher and more fundamentalist. Linus is absolutely dedicated to a mystical being he calls the Great Pumpkin, a creature who Linus claims will rise out of the pumpkin patch on Halloween night and fly through the air with his bag of toys for all the good little children who believe in him. And the rules of belief are clear. There's no room for doubt in the world of the Great Pumpkin. This is not a casual faith. One must show a devotion that is not only rock solid, but childlike, innocent, and pure. Sincerity is the highest ideal. So Linus finds a pumpkin patch that he believes is devoid of hypocrisy. Nothing but sincerity as far as the eye can see, he says, and he beds down for the night to wait. Unfortunately, and spoiler alert, the pumpkin that he imagines flying through the sky, it never comes. The next day, in an effort to comfort his friend, Charlie Brown says, "Don't take it too hard, Linus. I've done a lot of stupid things in my life too." And this comment deeply offends Linus, and the movie ends with him swearing his devotion to the Great Pumpkin even more vociferously. "Just wait till next year," he rants. "Next year, I'll find a pumpkin patch that is real sincere. The Great Pumpkin will appear, and I'll be waiting for him. Just you wait and see." For many of us, especially children of the 70s and 80s, watching this movie every year is a very long tradition. Halloween almost isn't Halloween without it. And every year I've watched Linus's sincere faith and wished just once it would be rewarded. Every year, just like Linus, I'm compelled to sit in that pumpkin patch alongside him, to get annoyed when he's ridiculed, to be worried when he expresses the smallest doubt. He writes to the Great Pumpkin of these doubts, and he says, "If you're a fake, don't tell me. I don't want to know." What is it about this movie that calls us back, just like Linus, year after year? Maybe you don't believe in the Great Pumpkin, but maybe like me, you want to. I've often said to people, if I could be a Christian, I would. The idea of a concrete, fundamentalist faith is at times appealing. To be certain, to be so certain of anything, seems to me a lot easier than the sort of faith I do have, which is, let's just say, open to interpretation, flexible. I've got a lot of questions and not a lot of answers. But as the poet Rilke once famously wrote, I have learned to live the questions. But Linus's faith isn't about questions. To him, the questions are the problem. He has the vision of the Great Pumpkin. He knows what it will look like. He knows what it requires of him. If the Great Pumpkin doesn't come, it's his own fault. If only he were without doubt. If only he could find a pumpkin patch that was really, truly sincere. If only this world was free of all that horrible hypocrisy. Well, after having watched this movie about 100 times, at least, let's be fair, at least 100 times, I think I've figured it out. Here's the biggest spoiler of all. The great pumpkin is real. And I'll tell you how I know. But first I have to tell you another story. And that is the story of the drowning man. Maybe you've heard it. The story goes that a man is trapped in his house during a flood. He begins praying to God to rescue him. He has a vision in his head of God reaching down from heaven and lifting him to safety. The water starts to rise in his house. His neighbor urges him to leave and offers him a ride to safety. The man yells back, "I'm waiting for God to save me." The neighbor then drives off in his truck. The man continues to pray and hold his vision. As the water rises even further, he has to climb up on his roof. A boat comes by with some people who are heading for safe ground. They yell at the man to grab the rope that they're about to throw to him. But again, he says he is waiting for God to save him. They shake their heads and move on. The man continues to pray, believing with all his heart that he will be saved by God. His faith is unshakable. The floodwaters continue to rise. A helicopter flies by, and a voice over the loudspeaker offers to lower a ladder and take him off the roof. But the man waves the helicopter away, shouting back that he is waiting for God to save him. So the helicopter leaves, and the flood waters rise above the roof and sweep him away, and he drowns. When he reaches heaven, he asks God, "Why did you not save me? I believed in you with all my heart. Why did you let me drown?" And God replies, "I sent you a truck, a boat, and a helicopter. You refused them all." This parable has been shared on social media quite a bit these days, though the details are changed. In the modern version, it isn't a truck and a boat and a helicopter, but a quarantine, a mask, and a vaccine. The drowning man in the story is portrayed as foolish, his mystical vision of divine assistance obscuring what is actually offered to him, what could actually help him and save his life. The lesson of the story, of course, is that faith in a higher power is foolish if we don't pay attention to what's happening right here on earth. That sort of faith actually becomes reckless and prevents us from receiving the gifts that are actually offered. In this way, Linus is just like the drowning man. He insists on going to the pumpkin patch, though all his friends are off trick-or-treating. In fact, they follow him to the pumpkin patch and ask him to please join them. He could wait in the pumpkin patch for the promise of gifts that may or may not come, or he could go with them and get a real gift, a bag of candy. The gifts are there. They are waiting to be collected from the neighbors. But Linus refuses. He says, "No, the great pumpkin will be here with my gifts, here in the pumpkin patch." Then his friend and Charlie's sister Sally comes to the pumpkin patch and agrees to sit with him. While she's there, she listens to him adoringly, offering him her companionship and affection. But Linus pays no attention to the love that she offers. When something suddenly does rise out of the pumpkin patch, frightening them both, it turns out to be Charlie's dog, Snoopy. And when Sally realizes there are no gifts in the pumpkin patch and no reciprocal attention from Linus, she leaves too. Then we see it is late. Linus's sister, Lucy, wakes up in the middle of the night, puts on her coat, and goes looking for her brother. She finds him asleep in the pumpkin patch, and so she carries him home, puts him to bed, and even takes his socks off for him so that he's comfortable. So maybe, just maybe, the great pumpkin appeared after all. Maybe, sometimes, our faith, even those of us blessed with more questions than answers, maybe sometimes it's like this. Our vision of what is supposed to be, our faith in the picture of how it should look, how it should appear, because that's what we've been told, or that's how it's always been, or because we can't imagine it being any other way. Maybe it obscures what is actually happening, what is actually possible, the gifts that are actually available. Maybe our faith in what is supposed to be prevents us from seeing the beauty of what is. Each of us, as Unitarian Universalists, have a different understanding of what it means to have faith. But what was true for the drowning man, what is true for Linus Van Pelt, it's true for us as well. We have a vision of what we are working towards. We have a vision, for instance, of when this is all over. By this, I mean a whole lot of things. Take your pick. The pandemic, climate change, the harms and horrors of white supremacy and extractive capitalism. We have faith in that vision of beloved community. We have faith in what our congregation once was, what it could be again. Even in our own personal lives, we have faith in our vision of getting back to normal. It's possible that all of this vision is a little like the great pumpkin. It's wonderful to be so inspired. You'll sit in a cold pumpkin patch all night, committed unwaveringly to your beliefs. But if we are too focused on the perfect image, we risk missing out on those gifts of connection that appear all around us. The ones who will come by truck and boat and helicopter to save us. The ones who remind us that the gifts are out there if we are brave enough to leave the safety of the pumpkin patch. We can have faith in the people who will love us enough to come and find us and bring us back home. I love the great pumpkin. I love an inspiring, invisible, quasi-religious figure. But in these uncertain modern times, I will put my faith in those folks around me who keep showing up and keep working at it, even when it falters and fails and looks nothing like we thought it would. I will put my faith in those who are reaching out and making connections every day in large and small ways, being kind and thoughtful and not giving up on humanity. I will put my faith in those who bear the light in unbearable times. Blessed are you in whom the light lives. You remind me that the great pumpkin may not look like we think it will, but it will always, always appear. And now for our closing hymn, number 194, Faith is a Forest.
which doubts play and hide. Insight can hear the still small voice deep inside. Web of life, may this thread I weave strengthen commitment to all I believe. Vision be my guide as I seek my way. Lead me into this tender day. Speak through me in all I do and say. Seeds of both meek and strong are scattered in it. Dignity shines undimmed by bigotry's glare. Web of life, may this thread I weave help me bear witness to all I believe. Justice be my guide as I seek my way. Lead me into this tender day. Speak through me in all I do and say. Fortune and famine ride the swift winds of chance. Sorrow and pleasure seem united in dance. Web of life, may this thread I weave mingle compassion with all I believe. Mercy be my guide as I seek my way. Lead me into this tender day. Speak through me in all I do and say.
Well, thank you everyone for being here today. All are invited to greet each other during our coffee hour. The link to join is in this morning's email, and the meeting ID will appear on your screen during our postlude, and the password is coffee with a capital C. And I have some other things to announce as well, a few things. There is also a adult exploration education class today after the service. It's called The First Political Order. You heard about it earlier. The link for that appeared in this morning's email as well. The password is ARE, and I think that is also going to appear on the screen during our postlude. We have an in-person event after the service today at our fellowship at 1 p.m. We have a grounds tour. So come tour the grounds, especially if you haven't been here or in a while or have never been here. It will be with myself and members of the Welcoming and Membership Committee. And then we have a really special event on Friday. It is a live stream event that's happening on our YouTube channel. Our music accompanist and coordinator, Brian Kenny, whose amazing music you hear every weekend, heard today as well. He is playing a recital, and it's going to be really beautiful and special. That's this Friday, November 5th at 6 p.m., and that's going to be live streamed on our YouTube channel, and the link will be on our website and will be in our newsletter, so I hope you will attend. 6 p.m. on Friday. And now let us extinguish our chalice with these words from Lindsay Bates. With faith in the creative powers of life, with hope for the future of life in this world, with love for all others who share this life with us, Let us go forward together in peace. Our worship has ended, but our service has only just begun. Amen, Ashe, and blessed be.